You want to know what is actually happening in the Coeur d'Alene real estate market right now? Not a filtered version and not a headline. The actual MLS data, city by city, number by number. Stick around. Everything you need to make a smart decision in this market is in this video. I'm Jeremy Specials with eXp Realty. I specialize in relocation clients moving to North Idaho and in sellers whose homes expired, got withdrawn, or were canceled before they could close. I want to show you exactly what February 26th is telling us about Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Rathdrum, and Hayden. Everything you're going to see on the screen behind me is pulled directly from the MLS of the Coeur d'Alene Regional Realtors. This is not my opinion. This is not the marketing copy. This is the data. So let's get into it. Let's start off with closed sales. How many homes actually crossed the finish line and recorded in February? Coeur d'Alene, 61 closed sales, up 3.4% year over year. CDA is the only city in this group that has grown its closed volume, and it's the most expensive market of the four. That tells you something real about the durability of the demand at the top of the market. Rathdrum comes in at 40 closings. That's up 14.3%. Post Falls pulled back to 56 and Hayden 29. The Hayden number looks dramatic at a minus 32.6, but Hayden is a smaller market where just a few transactions swing percentages significantly. The price and showing data, though, tells you what is actually happening here. Here's the context you need before we look at prices. Mixed closing volume paired with sharply declining inventory is a supply story, not a buyer demand story. Buyers are present and active. Homes are constrained, and we'll prove that conclusively in a few slides. Median sales price. Median is the most honest price number in any market report. It's the exact middle of the transaction range. It's not skewed up or down for outliers on either end. When I'm working with a relocation client who wants a real read on what this market costs, median is the number I show them first. Coeur d'Alene median in February, $612,000, up 3.9% from $589,000 a year ago. 3-year trend, $579 in 2024, $589 in 2025, $612 today. Consistent methodical appreciation. That is a foundation of a healthy market. Now, you may have seen a countywide average number closer to 884,000 floating around, and I'll explain exactly what's driving that gap when we get to the new construction data later on in this video. The median is your real anchor. Post Falls at 528,423, up 4%. Post Falls has delivered the most consistent 3-year appreciation story in this group. Every year, steady upward movement. For buyers moving from an expensive West Coast market, Post Falls represents genuine value in a premium region. And the data says it keeps getting more valuable. Rathdrum and Hayden both show pullbacks in the median. Rathdrum down 21%, Hayden down 11.1%. The Rathdrum number, specifically in 2025, Rathdrum's median spiked to 700,000. That was driven by a specific mix of larger, higher-end homes that happened to close that particular month. It overcorrected. The market has now reset to 553,000, which is more consistent to the underlying trend, and critically, still well above what was in 2024. And the reason I want you to hold on to Rathdrum reset is what I'm going to show you in the pending sales slide. Buyer demand in Rathdrum just exploded. A corrected median price plus surging buyer activity is textbook definition of a value buying window. Keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this data. Available inventory dropped between 10 and 30% across every city in a single year. CDA went from 264 homes for sale last February to 224 today. Post Falls lost nearly a third of its available inventory. Hayden down 26.6%. The supply pipeline is contracting and is doing so across the entire market simultaneously. Now, put the months of supply on top of that. A balanced market where neither buyers or sellers have a meaningful edge sits around 5 to 6 months of inventory. CDA is at 2.6, Hayden 2.1, and Post Falls is at 1.4. At the current pace of sales, Post Falls would be completely sold out in less than 6 weeks if nothing came to the market. This is not a market approaching balance. This is a fully activated seller's market going into the spring buying season, which historically drives the highest transaction volume of the year. For relocating buyers, the buyers who are active in Q1 and Q2 are ahead of the spring surge. By May and June, more inventory will be available. Now, starting here on the 5-year chart, before February numbers, I want you to see the big picture trend. You see the normal seasonal pattern. Supply spikes in the spring, pulls back in the winter every year, and that's expected. But look at where the summer peaks land year over year. The 2022 summer peak for Kootenai County was approaching 700 new listings in a single month. By 2025, that peak had dropped. The market is not restocking to where it was 3 years ago. That is a structural undersupply condition, not a seasonal one, and it has meaningful long-term implications for prices. Now, zooming into February 2026, CDA up 4.1 on new listings to 102. Sellers are gaining confidence as price rise. Rathdrum is a standout at plus 17.2%, bringing 75 new listings. Rathdrum is one of the markets showing synchronized activation on both sides. More new listings and more pending sales simultaneously. That's a healthy, functioning market in motion. Post falls is the concern, down 13.5% on new listings, while demand indicators are at a multi-year highs. That is a live supply squeeze. For post-fall sellers, especially anyone sitting on an expired listing, you're about to be one of the fewer homes competing for more buyers than you faced when you were originally on the market. You have more leverage today than when you were listed. Pending sales is the forward indicator. It's the market telling you what closings are about to happen in March and April. And this chart has the single most important number in the entire video. CDA, 69 pending sales, up 4.5%. The most expensive market in the group is growing its pending activity. This is not behavior of a softening market. That is sustained, expanding demand at a premium tier. Rathdrum, I need you to look at this specific number. February 2025, 35 pending sales. February 2026, 63 pending sales. That is 80% growth in buyer commitment in a single year. That combined with what we saw earlier, median price corrected from a spike, days on market, improving the fastest in the group, new listings actually growing. This is a market where the price reset attracted buyers, buyers moved in hard, and now the feedback loop is running. Rathdrum is a value story of this entire data set, and the data is screaming for it. For my relocating buyers from California, Oregon, and Washington, if Rathdrum is not on your list, that number should put it there. The window where you can enter that market at a corrected price is being closed by the buyers who already found it. The pending data tells you they are there and they are moving. Post-falls pending sales pulled back 74, down 9.8%. Listen, my read with 1.4 months of supply, post-falls buyers who wanted to go pending may not have found homes to ride on. That is a supply ceiling, not a demand drop. The demand is there. The inventory is not. Median price per square foot. This is the purest apples to apples comparison in real estate. It strips out home size, layout, lot configurations, and it tells you what a square foot of living space in each of these cities actually costs right now. And this is the slide that stops my out-of-state clients in their tracks every single time. Let me address CDA's number first because it seems to contradict what we've been showing. Coeur Alene's median price per square foot dropped 7.1% from $312 to $290. But the median sales price went up 3.9% and the average price went up 28.6%. How can the price per square foot be down when every price indicator is up? The answer is what sold. In February, the mix of homes that closed in Coeur d'Alene skewed towards larger homes, more square footage per transaction. When you divide the higher sale price by a significantly higher square footage, the per foot number compresses even as total values rise. This is not Coeur d'Alene declining. This is a month where more large homes happen to close. The sales price data tells the real story. Values are up. Now, the numbers I want every relocating buyer focused on. Post falls, $295 per square foot, up 12.6%. Hayden, $311 per square foot, up 13.5%. Rathdrum, $327 per square foot, holding steady at plus 1.2%, and the highest in the group on a per foot basis. Here's a comparison I want you to hold on to. Comparable quality suburban neighborhoods in the Seattle metro are running $400 to $600 per square foot. The San Francisco Bay Area is $700 to over $900 per square foot. Portland is $300 to $400. You are buying in a market that offers Lake Coeur d'Alene, world-class outdoor recreation, top-rated schools, and small-town safety, and a genuine quality of life that people drive across multiple states to access for $290 to $327 per square foot. The value gap is real. And Hayden at plus 13.5% and Post Falls at plus 12.6% show you exactly how fast that gap is closing. The time to act on that gap is closing before another year of double-digit appreciation erases it. These two slides are proof of demand, and together they deliver the most direct message I have for any seller whose listing didn't close. Pay attention. Showings per listing. Buyer foot traffic on active homes is up between 18 and 71% across every city year over year. Hayden is up 70.8% to 4.1 showings per listing. Coeur d'Alene is up 46.6% 28.2%. Post Falls up 39.4%. Buyers are physically walking through homes at rates we have not seen in years. The market is active, buyers are present, and they are touring. Showings to pending tells you how many showings a home typically needs before a buyer commits and goes under contract. Coeur d'Alene buyers required 9 showings before going pending, the highest in this group. That reflects what you would expect from a sophisticated buyer at that price point. They are doing their due diligence and comparing options and making a deliberate decision. They are deciding. 69 pending sales in Coeur d'Alene in February proves that conclusively. Post-fall buyers need 8.5 showings to go pending. That's up 41.7%. That's notable. More showings required means buyers are being more selective. In a market with only 1.4 months of supply means the right home, priced right, presented well, will stand out sharply from the competition. Here's what these 2 slides say directly to sellers. The buyers are there, they are active, they are walking through homes in record numbers. If your listing was on the market, buyers came through. And based on these numbers, they almost certainly did. If they came through and didn't make an offer, the home gave them a reason to say no. Price too high, condition concerns, presentation that didn't justify the ask, marketing that didn't reach the right buyer. Every one of those is correctable. In a market where showings are up 40 to 70%, a home that didn't sell has a fixable strategy problem, not a market problem. I want to take a moment to show you something that the broad city level data doesn't reveal on its own. And it explains several of the numbers we've been looking at today in a much more specific way. These are the local market sub-area reports from the Coeur d'Alene Regional MLS. And they break each market into new construction and previously owned. That distinction matters immensely because these 2 segments can be moving in completely different directions at the same time. Let's start with Coeur d'Alene. When I showed you the average sale price of $184,000 countywide and the $272,000 gap between the median, here's the mechanism behind that gap. New construction in the Coeur d'Alene urban Dalton area has an average sale price of over $1 million, up 70.9% year over year. New construction closings are actively pulling the blended average up. And the fact that new construction closed sales grew 63.6% tells you that these are not just a handful of luxury builds. Builders are closing products and buyers are accepting those prices. The median on new construction alone is $770,000, up 29.5%. This is not one builder with one outlier home. This is a functioning new construction market at significant price points. Now, Post Falls tells a supply story on both sides. New construction months of supply dropped to 1.9. Previously owned is at 1.3. Both segments are constrained, and yet the new construction median in Post Falls is $529,000, actually down 8.2%, which tells you builders have been bringing more accessible product to the market. The opportunity in Post Falls new construction is a value entry point into one of the fastest appreciation sublets in the county, and that supply is evaporating. Rathdrum is where the new construction data becomes the most interesting. I showed you pending sales up 82.9% on the slides earlier. Now I can tell you exactly what happened. New construction pending sales in Rathdrum up 59.1%. Previously owned pending sales up 57.1%. Both sides of the market, builders and resale sellers are surged simultaneously. That kind of synchronized activation doesn't happen by accident. Buyers found the value reset in Rathdrum on both the new build side and the resale side at the same time, and they moved on it together. Hayden's story is more of a nuance. New construction closed sales dropped 73.9%. That is a dramatic pullback. But before you read that as a market in trouble, look at the previously owned numbers. Closed sales up 14.3%. Average sale price up 15.9 to nearly $787. What happened in Hayden? New construction is a delivery and completion timing issue. Fewer builds were ready to close in February. Not a buyer demand problem. The resale market is active, values are rising, and the buyers who want Hayden are still there. The takeaway from this layer of data is this. You're not looking at a single market. You're looking at 4 cities, each with 2 parallel markets operating simultaneously. And the combined picture is a region where supply is constrained on both the new and the resale side. Builder activity is responding to that demand, and buyers, whether they want brand new construction or a previously owned home, are competing for limited available product. Let me step back from the individual slides and give you a complete picture. Here is what the full data set says. Supply is down 10 to 30% across every city. Inventory is at multi-year lows. The 5-year trend on new listings is declining because homeowners locked in at sub 3% rates are not moving, and that is not changing anytime soon. On the demand side, median prices are up, pending sales growing, showings up 40 to 70%, days on market down everywhere. Demand is not softening. It is accelerating. 5 years out, the forces bringing people here are structural, remote work, lifestyle, Spokane proximity, lower cost than coastal markets. The buyers who recognize what this data is saying in the early 2026 are going to look back with a lot more clarity. Here's what I want you to do right now. If you're relocating to North Idaho, reach out directly. I work with out-of-state buyers continuously. I know the distant buying process, and I know what life in each of these cities actually looks like day to day. That conversation costs you nothing and protects a 6-figure decision. If you've had a listing that expired, got withdrawn, or was canceled, I want a specific conversation with you. Showings are up 40 to 70%. Inventory is contracting. Prices are rising. And the market is objectively better for you now than it was when you listed. The strategy just needs to match the moment. Drop a comment below. Tell me your situation. I read every one and will respond personally. Subscribe, hit the bell. Next month is the March update, the first full month of spring buying season. If February showed us pending sales up 82% in Rathdrum in the dead of winter, I want to see what happens when buyers come off the sidelines in force. That data drops the moment MLS releases it. I'm Jeremy Specials with eXp Realty. I'll see you in March.